Welcome back to our September 14th Board of County Commission meeting. And we are resuming our meeting where we left off and starting with departmental number 5, Barton County Land Acquisition Funding, presented by John Mayle and Mike Houston.
Good afternoon, commissioners. So my name is Michael Houston. I am a project manager in the Ecosystem Restoration and Management Program.
I'm John Mayle, the Ecosystem Division Manager.
So today we are here to talk to you about our land acquisition program. So really the county has been working to acquire environmentally sensitive lands in this area for over 30 years now. And the reason that we've been able to do that is because on several different occasions, the citizens of Martin County have voted to tax themselves to help generate funds that could be used to acquire environmentally sensitive lands. And through that, Martin County actually has over 100,000 acres of land that are in public ownership that can be used as conservation. Why have we done these things? What are the benefits of the program? Well, first of all, we've got a lot of rivers here in Martin County. You know, I always like to mention that we have two major river systems right here in Martin County, between the Loxahatchee River system and the St. Lucie River system. And then we also have the Indian River Lagoon, which is considered the most biodiverse estuary in North America. We've been able to save and protect thousands upon thousands of acres of wetland habitats throughout the country. And as a result of that, we've really become this internationally known tourist destination. People come to Martin County because of our greenness, because we have these areas that they can come and enjoy. And as a consequence of that, we also really have tremendous recreational potential in this county. Anything from equestrian uses, bicyclists, the boating industries and paddling, any type of recreational opportunity you can think of exists here in Martin County. And it's really what makes Martin County unique and kind of sets us apart from the other counties to the north and to the south of us. So at a recent board meeting, you asked us to take a look at our acquisition program and to try and quantify what we've done and where we could possibly go. And so we sat around and thought about it. And the first thing we wanted to do is to really quantify what are the different areas that we focused on in the past. What are our different types of acquisition programs? And this map depicts 4 different types of programs that we've really focused on in the past. The Indian River Lagoon South program, which is the beige color, Palmar, which would be highlighted in green, orange, which is the Loxahatchee footprint, and the dark blue, which is the Blue Ways program. The brown on that map shows state park land. So hasn't been a part of our conservation lands acquisition programs, but these are properties that had already been purchased or acquired for conservation. So the next thing that I tried to do is try and quantify, well, how much land is in those acquisition footprints? How much land do we have in each of those areas? And based on that, I was able to figure out that there's about 116,000 acres of land that are in an acquisition footprint. And out of that, we've already acquired about 71,000 acres of land, with another 45,000 acres that could be in some potential acquisition program. So on that map, the green areas indicate areas that have already been acquired, and the beige color represents areas that could be acquired through a future program. And to do all that, and this is working with state and federal partners, we've spent around $650 to $750 million, that's what would remain in order to acquire that remaining 45,000 acres of land.
At how much per acre?
It varies. And I go into that a little bit in the slides, but Blue Way area could cost $500,000 to $1 million an acre, whereas IRL South might cost $10,000 to $20,000 an acre. So it all depends on where it is, and it makes it difficult to quantify, and that's why I put that big of a range, 650 to $750 million, because it's hard to say, and it's also market dependent. So in terms of the acquisition footprints, the largest by far is the Indian River Lagoon Salt footprint. This past acquisitions in this area have focused on the C-44 project and the Alapata complex. So most of these properties are going to be west of I-95 and the Turnpike. Some of them are north of Canner Highway, and the remaining amounts are south of Canner Highway. But there's still, despite the success we've had in that program, there's still about 27,000 acres of land that could potentially be acquired in the IRL South footprint. That doesn't mean that all of it is the highest priority, but they're lands that have been identified in one of those conservation footprints in the past. And just a closer look at this area, there's a mix. There's a good portion of it, especially the lands that are south of Canner Highway, which are known as the Palmar complex, even though they're actually not in Palmar. Those are going to be more agricultural in nature. So they've already been turned into improved pasture, lots of cattle use. Some of the lands that are north of the C-44 and Canner Highway are more natural. So they haven't been improved. There's more wetlands, and the ecology in those areas tends to be more intact. In addition, the cost per acre would be relatively low in this area, and there's a good potential to leverage funds through our state partners, through the South Florida Water Management District or the Florida Forever program, because of its inclusion in a Sept footprint. Next, we have the Palmar program, and I should say, we are going to have a second board item that specifically focuses on Palmar after this one. So for this one, we want to really just focus on the land acquisition one, so things don't get mixed up. But the Palmar area is located north of the county line, west of I-95 and the Turnpike, and east of Indiantown. Why do we care about that area? Because it has really some of the highest quality wetland systems in Martin County, if not in Southeast Florida. And it has this amazing greenway potential to be a part of a greenway that stretches all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. So a cross-Florida greenway network spanning between the two coasts. It's also the headwaters to the federally designated wild and scenic northwest fork of the Loxahatchee River. And it has some very important recreational opportunities and has the ability to really create a regional trail network that could be a destination for the state. This is a close-up of what the area looks like. We've been pretty successful. We've acquired 24,000 acres of land in that area. Most of it is included in what's now the Hungryland Wildlife and Environmental Area. But there's still 8,500 acres that remain, with the majority of that being in the acre to quarter acre lot area that's known as Palm Beach Heights. Our third program is the Loxalucy program. So these are properties that are going to be south of Cove Road, west of US 1, and east of I-95 and the Turnpike. And this is a very unique area because it connects our two river systems. It connects our St. Lucie River system and the South Fork of the St. Lucie River with the Loxahatchee River system. And consequently, it has value to both restoration of the St. Lucie and the Loxahatchee River systems. And in addition to that, it really has a lot of potential trail connections that could go between Stewart and Jupiter. And it has a lot of high quality pine forests and wetland plant communities. So through our past conservation programs, we've acquired about 6,500 acres of land that's highlighted in green. But there's still about 10,000 acres in private ownership. It's also unique in that it's some of the largest tracts of privately owned undeveloped land near the coast. especially in Southeast Florida. There's no one else really has this opportunity to create these kind of almost urban corridors spanning their county like we can do here if we were successful at acquiring more of the Atlantic Ridge complex, Loxalucy complex. And finally, we have our Blueways program. Martin County has some of the best access to river systems of anybody. How many beach areas do we have for access to the ocean? How many boat ramps do we have? How many kayak launch facilities do we have in Martin County? We're really unique in being able to offer up all those areas for waterway access. And it's also important because of these types of preserves provide buffer systems to protect our waterways. In addition, these coastal areas have some of the highest amounts of rare species of any of the habitats around in Martin County. Because of all that, we were able to get Martin County added to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection list of state designated paddle trails. We did that a few years ago, the map on the right is what is signs that we put up about that trail at some of our preserve areas. We've actually acquired most of the land that's in the footprint, 1,900 acres by my estimation, with about 400 acres still remaining in those footprints that haven't been acquired. The importance of those unacquired areas is that they could help to provide additional access to waterways. We can help with coastal resiliency and making sure that our flood zone areas don't become developed and don't become a potential future coastal hazard. And really, when you're looking at the Blueway area, if the county doesn't acquire those areas in the near future, there's a very good chance that they'll be developed. So the next thing I tried to do is I wanted to look back at what our last acquisition program netted us, and that was the 2006 half-cent sales tax. We had about $27 million in funds that came in that were used to acquire environmentally sensitive lands, and we actually, at the board direction, set aside about 10% of that $3 million that we could use to develop public access facilities, help restore these properties, and these are the properties. This is what that money got us, is these areas that are highlighted on the map. We acquired roughly 3,300 acres, and we were able to leverage to about $30 million in state and federal funding to help with acquiring and managing these properties. And this is just some of the work that we've been able to do with that money. So these are just some photos of Clifton Perry Beach, where we put in parking facilities, an overwater pavilion and classroom, canoe kayak launch, boardwalk facilities, and it's actually can be a pretty popular location. I always see cars parked over there, so it gets used a lot. Another one would be Hope Sound Scrub Preserve, which we just opened up recently. We put in interpretive trails and pavilions and covered benches, and we also put in exercise stations. And every time I go over there, the parking lot has multiple cars in it. It's a very popular spot. I think people love this fitness trail. I saw a group of 5 people over there when I went there the other day. I just finished up a workout. I think it's a little crazy. It was like 90 degrees already, but whatever.
That was me.
That was that's what I thought.
I saw you there.
It's all that sweat. I wasn't sure. You look different.
Glistening. Call it glistening.
And then we have Kitchen Creek Preserve, which that top video in the center is what the property used to look like, with just piles of debris and material. We cleaned all that out. We created a beautiful flowway that really is a unique resource in our county, helps to restore the Loxahatchee River. And the reason why I show these is because one of the things that's brought about, one of the things that people talk about when it comes to conservation lands is that you guys buy up all these conservation lands, but then you don't do anything with them. The public doesn't have access. Well, here in Martin County, we do. Every facility that we buy, we make it a point to get them open to the public. And certainly the commissioner's contribution to that, the 10% set aside, has enabled us to do that. But we always make sure that when we open up a facility that we get it open so that the citizens of Martin County and visitors can appreciate it. And they do. Anytime we build a trail, they're out there using it. So what could be some of the justifications to continue and to do a new acquisition program? Well, I mentioned that we have over 40,000 acres of land that's a potential acquisition in a conservation footprint that we could acquire. And each of those programs has its own unique reasons why we would want to acquire it. For the IRL South, we can help to alleviate some of the damaging runoff that ends up in our estuary systems. For the Palmar Complex, we can protect some of the most significant, beautiful wetland systems that we have in the county and create passive recreation opportunities. Whereas now the area really is being threatened by some of the uses that are occurring out there. The Loxahatchee River, Loxalucy Complex, I mentioned that Greenway corridor. So we can create this unique urban Greenway corridor between Cove Road and Jupiter. And then our Blueways program, we can protect more shoreline habitat and we can provide that waterway access. So I'm not going to go into all of this, but basically there's been a lot of work and a lot of research that has been done that has showed that when you acquire lands, they do provide an economic benefit. And these are some of the statistics that I was able to pull, including, in the state of Florida, there are 500,000 jobs related to access to our natural area systems and waterways. Fishing, hunting, and wildlife viewing alone contribute $10.1 billion annually to Florida's economy. So there is a lot of value in these areas. And we're not alone in these efforts. We have the Florida Forever program, the state's land acquisition program. And they currently have 3 Florida Forever programs that focus on Martin County, including Palmar, what we're calling the Loxalucy program, and our Blueways program. So there's a lot of potential to unlock state funding. And this is a new program that's just been created, is the Florida Wildlife Corridor. It's a state program that focuses on creating habitat corridors for wildlife, and really all of our conservation programs have components that are in the footprint of that Florida Wildlife Corridor. So the recommendation that was made is that the board designate the land acquisition program as a priority strategic objective and direct staff to bring back a detailed action plan with funding options. And that is it.
Great. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, it's an excellent presentation. I think my experience is that the public is extremely sensitive to development pressures, both the city of Stewart development pressures that we're seeing in the dense apartment buildings that we're seeing. Tradition is exploding. The city of Palm Beach, or West Palm Beach, is exploding. I mean, all around us, there is an awful lot of development that's occurring, and people talk about it all the time. So people are really aware of development pressures in Martin County. COVID put a really, really accentuated those development pressures. So many people are moving here. So many people took advantage of COVID quarantine-like conditions in order to have better experiences outdoors. So it seems to me that people are using our facilities more than ever. So our conservation lands have become far more valuable in the last 2 years than they were 2 years ago. And I think that reverence desire to participate in nature has never been stronger. And Martin County residents have told us numerous times that they really want to save our conservation lands, to be good stewards of the land. Also, we'll get into Palomar next time. But Palomar has pressure like it's never had before. So I think that I know that there's a huge appetite in Martin County for acquiring more lands so that we can protect our rich wild spaces. But also, I think that Martin County, if we're going to put this to a referendum, that Martin County voters need to have assurances about the kind of things that we're going to buy, the kinds of things that we're going to target for acquisition. So we'd need to do a very robust study of what Martin County residents think are the most valuable pieces to acquire, and honor that. I am bullish on a robust acquisition program. I don't think that putting $2 million a year in a capital program is going to cut it. I think it needs to be a 5 or 10-year plan, and it needs to have lots of concrete goals and promises, and so I'm very eager to get busy trying to do just what the recommendation tells us to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurd. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Guys, great presentation. Mike, can you go back, I think, to the one, let's see, keep going. Or, what? No, yeah, slow, keep going. Yeah, right there, sorry. Commissioner Hurd said a lot, and I agree with a lot of almost everything that she said. One that I want to point out, just because it's gotten so much attention these days up in my district, if you look up in the northern part of that photo there where the red is and the thing called Gables, some years back we acquired that. And what's interesting about that is that parcel's wholly within the city limits of Stewart, and we used our portion of the sales tax dollars that we had at the time to go acquire that land. That was slated for 360 something apartment units that didn't get built because we acquired it. To Commissioner Hurd's point, it was that kind of foresight that we understood that that's what the public wanted us to do. And the corner that's being developed is the northeast corner of the city of Stewart's boundaries. And so, we get a lot of flack for what's going on because it appears as if it's Martin County that's doing that, and it's not. And where we had a stake in the game and we could carve out acquiring a gorgeous piece of land, we did. So thanks for having that on the map, because people forget very quickly sometimes the history of why and how things happened. Can you go down to the Kitchen Creek slide? And Mike, I don't know if you remember the numbers and whatnot, but and not that you glassed over this because there was a lot to share in the presentation, but the photo on the left is really kind of where we started with that project. The one in the middle is what it looked like on the ground. If you all remember, that thing caught on fire and burned for like months on end. The red line is the one I think is most interesting sort of in the picture. That's where we built the STA on the northeast portion, which has that like little peninsula hanging out in the middle. But southwest of the red line was kind of like this natural area that, Mike, you went in with the contractor and like took
Mowed it.
like a whole bunch of junk out of there.
Well, it was mainly Brazilian pepper and willow, which when it gets that bad, you want to hand clear areas when you can, but when it gets that bad, that's just not an option. So we, to protect the soils, the contractor was required to use mats. They could only drive on the mats, and they literally just mowed the vegetation to the ground in place and turned it into mulch.
And do you remember how many plants you put back in? Like over 100,000?
In that area, probably about 30,000. Now, most of them are like
little guys, yeah.
50-cent plants or whatnot.
But what I think they tried to share with us in their presentation, and I hope everybody appreciates it. You can drive into this and you can go see that little parking lot on the southeast corner. It's a spectacular, example of what you guys have done and what we can do with other pieces of property. And the best part is you can actually go out and see it, touch it, and be in it. So I just, you guys probably don't like to brag enough on yourselves about what you do. But it's not just the acquisition side of it, it's the actual restoration of the property that gets done that I think is the coolest part. I support you guys 110% with what you're doing. I agree with Sarah. I think that our public is very concerned with what's going on recently with a lot of the development trends in our community. And there's never a time where someone doesn't suggest the idea that we should be acquiring more and protecting, and so that we don't become anything more like what we typically see surrounding us. So great job. Fantastic presentation. I don't know about the rest yet. I'd love a copy of the PowerPoint if you can get it to us, because I'm sure we'll be using it in the future. Thank you very much.
Great.
It's in mine.
I know I need the digital side of it, please.
I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. When you have time,
Sure.
great stuff.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with what my colleagues have mentioned, but an interesting point that I had mentioned when the Loxalucy folks were here is that, I prefer this strategy of conservation. The concept of, I like our comprehensive plan because it's designed to control and regulate growth, where and what and how fast. But I never liked the concept that should be used as a hammer or as some way to strangle private landowners and force them into doing conservation because we won't allow them to build anything on their property. I like the concept that if there is a piece of property that we feel is so valuable that we wouldn't just make it impossible for a private landowner to do something on it as a conservation tool, that we would purchase it. I think that that's appropriate. I think that most private landowners would be willing to participate, a lot of them that are at least long-time historic legacy landowners, like Mr. Ham in Hobe Sound. He could have sold that. He had plenty of opportunities. He was waiting for the county and for Commissioner Jenkins to show up, and a handful of other people that never gave up. But how long was that process? Decades? So he could have sold that off at a high profit, and instead he wanted to at least get some value out of it, which is reasonable, but turn it into something. His legacy is much stronger now, knowing the Ham property and what you guys have all turned it into versus if it was just another development. There are other folks that probably feel that way, and so later today we're going to hash out a budget, and I think the way that the restrictions of our budget are that we don't have, just buckets of extra money to throw at this. So Commissioner Hurd's strategy of, look, the advantage of a referendum is it's not that 5 of us or 3 of us decide, it's everyone gets to decide. And, the 5 of us, part of what our positions require us to do is to sort of take the temperature of the general public. And I agree with Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Smith that now, and I might not have agreed 6 months ago, I am not a big fan of, hey, let's add a referendum for taxing because I think most people are sick of it. But with that in mind, there is a lot of rumbling in the community about development. Some of the things that we're seeing our colleagues in other municipalities doing is very obvious because it's in the heart of communities. It's not tucked out somewhere on a side road, off of Pratt Whitney where people aren't noticing. It's right where they know. And so I think the timing is probably accurate and correct for at least the process of a referendum to see. I remember when I moved here nearly 20 years ago, the referendum was out there a couple years after I was here. of the half-a-cent sales tax referendum. And I remember exactly voting, and I remember that it was a quarter penny for park infrastructure and recreational, and a quarter penny for conservation. And then, having gotten into the government process, I was, along with everybody else, a beneficiary of those funds that were coming in. I remember the Land Acquisition Selection Committee, and I also remember when we sunsetted it because there was no money left, because it had the whole program, the half a cent had disappeared, and for many years no one was interested. And part of it is how we were marketing it. I think that people had come off the conservation thing, and we had made some big purchases. And when I say we, it was more Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Smith, who have been here since then. They were leading the charge. I was newer. They knew the properties that you guys, maybe it wasn't even you two, but they knew the properties that the county had on their wish list. And then, so I was in favor of the thing that I was hearing at the time is infrastructure, road paving, and stormwater issues, and drainage and flooding control and things like that. But I think we have circled back around now. I think there's been so many years. What's it been? That expired in 2011?
Yes.
So it's a decade.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new people that live here, and a lot of people are going to look and wonder, maybe I'm willing. Martin County is famous for that, and we'll see if they're going to continue to be famous for taxing themselves to put their money where their mouths are. The last thing I would add to this is that our county staff and whoever you bring in, sometimes as consultants, are very good at taking a one taxpayer dollar and turning it into $2, $3, $4. We have a excellent, it's almost boring now when Ms. Manning comes and says, permission to apply for a grant, permission to apply for a grant, or when they come back and say, we want a grant, we want a grant, we want a grant. Sometimes I've actually totaled down, and it's millions of dollars, sometimes with no match, 50% match, 100% match. So I think I would agree with my colleagues, the ones that have spoken at least thus far, that I would be willing to take a chance again to see if the public has an appetite for purchasing conservation lands. You, both of you, if you just made that presentation that you made to us just now in strategic homeowners association meetings, civic groups, taxpayers association, business development boards, chamber of commerce, and just put that out there. You know, I don't think it's campaigning. I think it's educational, because everyone that spoke is right. You can't just say, hey, we're going to collect the money and buy lands. People are going to want to know exactly what they are. And the last part is that they want to know that if we purchase them, we don't fence them off and people can just drive by them. They need to see that there is some benefit, a secondary benefit, because some people are exclusive about the conservation environmental benefit, but some people want more from their tax dollar than that. They want to kayak, bike, hike. Look, when we closed Halpatioke for just a short period of time, people were setting their hair on fire over that, rightfully so. They wanted to get back there as quickly as possible. So I would agree, and your presentation made me agree.
Your presentation was excellent. If you go back to that slide where the dollars were it shows you for every dollar that we put in years past, we went out and gotten the funding, and I know Commissioner Campy just indicated that. So for every dollar in, we went and leveraged. I like the fact that you included that there, you know, the partners like Loxalucy and Florida Forever, there are some ways to collaborate and put together partnerships to do this kind of thing. It really is a great program, and I think our residents have spoken over and over. Now, what I heard Commissioner Campy just said was a referendum, but what I see on your slide is you're going to come back with priorities and a number of funding options.
We are willing to do whatever you ask us to do.
That's the way I would like to see, is that you're going to look at partnerships and how we can put all of this together. Commissioner.
Chair, if you would, this was an example of our most recent initiative. We have, that Martin County had other initiatives in the past that were even more effective at leveraging state and federal dollars.
Great. Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, another unprecedented challenge that we're facing right now is we currently have 2 pre-apps into the county for very, very, very large developments on agricultural lands. One of them is it's not in the IRL footprint, but it's next to the IRL footprint, and the other is not in the Loxalucy footprint, but it's right outside the Loxalucy footprint. So we've never had these kinds of challenges before, where there are, and they won't be the only ones either. If they're successful, if they see that there's support for those kinds of developments in Martin County, there will be further applications, which just dilutes our ability to acquire those lands that are inside the footprints.
And if I could just add, because Commissioner Smith, you brought up the Gables, and I wanted to say, I just forgot to, that's a good example, though I don't know if that was the most environmentally sensitive. Perhaps it is, but when looking at what the city of, the pressures on the city of Stuart right now, I think people can look at that portion of the map and be very thankful that that particular portion was acquired. Commissioner Smith,
Because I already spoke, but then I'll come after him.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Well, waiting till last, I don't have to say a whole lot. I just want to, yeah,
But that's
which is,
always by design, though.
yeah, it is, exactly. The referendum idea is the fairest of all. We make the countywide makes the decision. This time, we have some pretty serious players that are partnering with us. We've gotten support letters from the Realtors Association, obviously from the Guardians, the Loxalucy crowd. We have a lot of folks right now that are completely behind this initiative that will do what we can't do, and that's to promote it. So I'm completely for the idea of a referendum. Your turn.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, the only other one thing I would add to the conversation, so when you guys come back and however you're going to present what you're going to present, in the prior effort, we were also very successful in acquiring a fair amount of beachfront. We certainly in my district, I think we acquired over 140 acres through that effort. Some beach to river, which was really kind of cool stuff that we picked up. There's still some key parcels out on the beachfront that we should be thinking about and adding to the mix. And I don't know that we highlighted as much as we could, should, whatever, but just in that, and as you start framing the conversation, what it looks like and sounds like, we should always kind of keep in mind if there is additional stuff to acquire out there, that would be super, super important. Those are the ones we acquired in the Blue Ways.
That would include some that have been acquired and others that have not, that are identified.
That map.
as priorities. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if that was just strictly what we had, less, because it's really hard to tell the small little detail, but
It is challenged. There's about 400 acres in Blue Ways that remains as opportunities.
cool. So just if, when and how you come back, if you can formulate that also into the discussion, that would be super.
And these maps aren't meant to be the end-all be-all.
Yeah, I
either.
understand. I get
They
it.
were just me trying on a broad scale to quantify. Really, I was not just the visual depiction you see, but trying to come up with the numbers was just as important. So this map is not all inclusive in the only things that we will focus on. It was just my attempt to quantify things.
Yeah, no, and I would say this much, I don't think any of our acquisitions are more or less important than either one of them. But I think one thing our residents do cherish is that we have acquired a significant amount of our beachfront that we have public access to, and when you go up and down the island on the weekends and you see how many people are using them, it's clear that those were great acquisitions. So the more we can pick up, the more we can provide our residents
District 1
access.
acquisitions?
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah, I know, a lot of attention got to Palm City this morning with Little League, but
No.
Okay, you want to
we
round
get,
this
but we get
out?
the
I do.
beaches.
Okay. Commissioner Campy is going to.
If we're contemplating at least even the consideration of an referendum, I know that there's very specific calendar timeframes. Let's not be strategizing past a deadline and then have to wait a whole nother year to find out if the public is interested or not. So I know that there's some end of the year kind of deadlines. You might be starting to push up against some deadlines, because if we have this strategy and say, look, we're going to come back, 20 months from now, it really didn't, a lot of your efforts will have,
Yeah, we don't want to pay for a special election.
no.
We got one coming up in
So we'll back up and figure out when the dates we would need to meet in order to be able to get in something on a
So the general idea behind this is just to find out if we're interested. And if we're interested, you guys can then come back and tell us what's what.
Well, and for me, just to make sure the message is clear from today, that the residents of Martin County didn't hear that the commission voted for a 1/2 cent sales tax. The commission is discussing the possibility of letting the public decide on a 1/2 cent sales tax. That's my perspective.
Along with a prioritization of the properties and other funding options. Okay. All right. So with that, no further comments, then we are going to move on to departmental number 6. Status and discussion regarding funding and acquisition strategies for individually owned parcels within Palmar, Palm Beach Heights.
Okay, John Mayle, Ecosystem Division Manager. This
Welcome back.
is the easy one, and I volunteered to take the short one. Thank you, Mike, for doing the big one. Palmar, obviously, whatever acquisition program that the board would direct us to pursue, Palmar would be a part of that consideration for acquisition. We continue to have some funds that were committed to that from our last initiative, and really that's what our agenda item today boiled down to is how we best use what we currently have that over the last few years we've struggled to implement with much effectiveness. So Palmar has a lot of unique issues around it that we've been bringing items to you over the last year, and you've been giving us direction and helping Commissioner Jenkins as he serves the board on the Water Control District's board. And rather than repeat a lot of the information that was covered in Mike's presentation over the general land acquisition, I would probably just cut to our specific recommendation today and then open it up to the board for discussion. And that is that the staff are recommending that the board provide us with the ability to negotiate prices for the acquisition of individually owned lots within Palmar, Palm Beach Heights area, and submit any negotiated purchase and sale agreements to the board for its consideration, and authorize the chair to execute any and all items necessary to complete these transactions. So that's our ask for today, but of course, we are attuned to whatever the board wants to discuss about Palmar.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Hearn?
any lands in Palmar that are included in the Loxahatchee SERP?
That is a common challenge. There are not currently. So if you look at this map here, this section under it, can you see the cursor or the hand? That's called the Palmar Complex. This is what's part of the SERP footprint. The actual Palmar Water Control District is not part of the SERP footprint.
There is a small area on the southeast side that has been included in the Loxahatchee River SERP project boundary. Originally, there wasn't going to be any of Palmar included in the SERP boundary, but comment that the county made them go back and change it to include about 350 acres.
Be in this lower southeast corner here.
we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
So did
you.
you two draw straws on that? Which one got to do the long one and which one got to do the short one?
We did not.
I
draw
volunteered.
John's the boss.
Yeah.
You volunteered.
Got it.
It's important to put your experts in the.
Good. Well, this next
You
one
were
should be a
voluntold.
short one. Appointment of a county commissioner to the Florida Association of Counties, FAC Access 67 initiative to implement a full approach to deliver high-speed, reliable, and affordable broadband to all Floridians.
Yes.
Ooh, that was a mouthful. Presented by
I know.
Karen Krista.
And Donna, thank you for doing this item for us. So we received this letter, actually the chair received this letter and they sent it to me too. They're putting together this team for broadband and they wanted not only a county commissioner, but a staff person. So I was recommending Michael Merker. I didn't know what the board would want to do as far as having a commissioner as well, but that's been their ask.
Anybody want to do it? I nominate Ed.
I'll second that.
Okay, great.
The reason
third.
being,
We know.
We know.
Raise your hand.
the reason being I raised my hand. I raised my hand because when I was reviewing the agenda, this is very important. I just want the people in this area, the digital divide, to realize, because we've been talking about it for a long time. The state is talking about it, but until we actually do something. The other thing that's important is a lot of counties are 100% lacking broadband. We're not, luckily. We have a large portion of our county that's not, but most of the area where people live have it. So it's not as urgent a consideration for a lot of Martin County residents because they have it. But you can imagine, just think for a second, if you did, oh, here he comes, my partner. If you didn't have internet access, I would believe, and I've heard people say it, internet is a utility now. It's the same as water and electricity. It cannot be considered a luxury item like it was when most of us were young. Like, oh, look, we got internet in the house. We can watch HBO. People can't work their jobs, their kids can't go to school. If you were in a college that was doing remote access, you don't have remote access. And the concept of, hey, go to the local library is not a real option. So thank you for your consideration.
We had Commissioner Hurd motioning and Commissioner Jenkins with the second for you to sit on the committee. And all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries unanimously, which brings us to the end of our regular agenda. Is there anybody in the room that wishes to make general public comment?
Nobody's in the room.
Okay, except for Mr. Merker. And with that, we'll take commissioner comments.
I'm good, thank you.
All set.
Mr. Smith? Camping? Commissioner
I'm
Hurd?
set.
I just wanted to say, this morning, I forgot to mention the Golden Gate. I had some residents inquire, so I would love for, staff or Public Works Communications to send out some communications updating the Dixie Highway project, that there was a resident concern that we were scrapping the project, not continuing at all. We are continuing the project. There was some redesign of the project that has been completed. We've added some crosswalks. We've changed the design slightly. That should be going to the DOT for approval, if not already. So I just wanted to assure the residents, and then also have our Public Works and Communications team reach out to the general vicinity businesses and community groups in the Golden Gate area, that project will be back up and running fairly quickly, and I think it's going to be a better project for the changes that we made.
Got it.
Can I just add one more thing for you?
Yeah, yes.
If y'all haven't been by the golf course lately, take a swing by and see the progress that's being
Swing
made.
by, that's clever.
Swing by? Yeah. It's really, really cool. It's looking awesome.
It's going up, yeah,
It's going up.
it's going up. Ms. Krista? Ms. Woods? Okay, so with that, we are going to adjourn our regular meeting, and we will be coming back this afternoon for our budget hearing at 5 p.m. And our next regular meetings will be October 5th and 19th. So we will see you at 5 p.m. Oh, yes?
We don't want to stifle the public.
Okay.
Out there in the lobby.
We were calling for you.
Where were you?
Go ahead. We're going to take, we have a public comment, an individual in the room for public comment.
In the cheap seats. Couple things. First, in response to the blatant lies published in yesterday's Stewart News. Quote, unvaccinated people are a threat to public health, medical experts say. And, quote, the drivers of this current wave are the unvaccinated folks. Why is the data from Israel and Great Britain so important? Because these were the first countries to vax the majority of their populations. We are about 2 months behind. Unfortunately, evidence of ADE, antibody-dependent enhancement, is strong. ADE during the waning phase of durability makes the vaccinated produce and shed much more virus than the unvaccinated and makes disease worse. Total deaths in the UK February to August, vaccinated 1,233, unvaccinated 536. 70% of all deaths occurred in the vaccinated. Israel confirmed cases from data.gov.il and datadashboard.health.gov.il. All age groups 20 to 90, July 4th through July 31st. Cases fully vaxxed, 15,634. Cases unvaxxed, 3,038. Percent of cases fully vaxxed, 86%. Percent of total population vaxxed is now at 84.4%. We are in unprecedented times, and sadly, we only get accurate, unbiased science from other countries. Look to India and Bangladesh for the only way out of this pandemic. The rest of the world laughs at us as we enforce the one-size-fits-all universal vaccination. These are new times, and so far you local leaders seem to be stuck in disbelief as far as the information that you can believe and what you can't. This morning, the county administrator got thrown under the bus for making a decision she surely made based upon the information she believed to be true at the time. And nobody said anything. So these new times bring some things to light. Too many critical decisions are made at the administrative level with no public input. This makes all the sense in the world for politicians. Way less work and way less political risk. My biggest example of no public input is the subleases granted at Witham Field. Still irritates me very much. So I would suggest in these new times, the public start electing officials who could make their commitment full time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that looks like the only other person in the room for public comment. So with that, we are going to adjourn and be back at 5:05 p.m. for our budget hearing.